Welcome to It's No Secret, a podcast for Kiwis who want their money questions answered.
Ready, steady, go.
This podcast will answer the money questions you may or may not have on your mind. We'll talk to real Kiwis and share truths about our own financial lives.
Both the successes and the failures. Because the truth is, there is no secret to achieving financial freedom.
Hello and welcome to It's No Secret. I'm Christine.
And I'm Kat.
And today on the podcast, we're bringing you a bonus episode with 3 timely money reminders as you find yourself in lockdown if you're in New Zealand and potentially Australia.
Well, most of
as well.
Australia.
Yeah.
It's like, they've been there for a while. We've joined you guys.
Yes.
Hello.
So, hi. So, as we just said, we're in lockdown. Kat and I are currently podcasting from Christchurch as on the back of a Kernel investing roadshow, which we unfortunately had to cancel, which was very sad. But hey, we thought this was a great opportunity to jump on and have a chat, have a very quick, short, sharp chat about 3 things that you can do during this lockdown.
Definitely. Because let's be honest, we don't all want to be working from home all the time. No. You know, I'll be the first to put my hand up and say that in previous lockdowns may or may not have, you know, had some time out to do some other things during work hours.
Bake some bread.
Yeah. Well, actually, no baking. Make some cocktails.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's true.
Do some life chores, a bit of admin, all that sort of stuff.
You are the lockdown cocktail queen as well. So
I'm going to have to do a trip to Gilmore's and get some more spirits. And yes.
Maybe we should put a poll on the ground to be like, what is Kat's cocktail of choice? Cocktail
of lockdown, whatever version this is. What should I be making this time?
Well, maybe you can like theme it for money, these 3 timely tips. It can be the... I'm not going to be fair,
I could try and do one like what's the best and most cost-effective cocktail?
Yes,
because sometimes people don't make cocktails because obviously it can be a bit expensive, you know, when you add in like spirits and other mixes and so maybe get a bit creative.
Yeah, I always actually find that with cooking, like you get a new recipe book and you're like, oh, this is a cool recipe, and then you kind of look at the ingredients and it's like thyme, coriander, all these things, and I'm like, it's like $4 a plant. I'm not buying all of these spices,
all these things to do. Yeah, very fair point. So okay, that's on my task list for lockdown. The most cost-effective cocktail.
Yeah, and I'll do the most cost-effective cake because I want to make some cakes.
Yes, okay, great.
Yeah.
All right.
So stay tuned. Maybe we'll
strap in, team.
Yeah, we're going for a ride.
I know. Okay, so actually on the money front, I mean, the first one, do a financial checkup. You know, it is that time, I think, to really capitalize on having a little bit of free time and the ability to do some life admin that you've probably put off for yourself. So, Christine, have you got some suggestions on what sort of financial checks people should be making?
Yes. So I think numero uno is take a look at the budget. So if you, firstly, actually before that, if you don't have a budget, maybe it's now is a great time to create one. So create one and then to have a look at how your spending is going pre-lockdown of, you know, how are you tracking? Are you overspending? Gaining clarity would be probably the thing of, how much money do I actually have coming in and going out? Or how much extra could I save to put to invest or things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think great time to, you know, if you haven't done a budget before, to look at implementing one now, because whilst I guess it's important to acknowledge some people won't be able to be working from home and they may be a little bit stressed around money and other things, we also had that flip side of people tend to spend less when we're in such a strict lockdown because, you know, you can't get takeaways, we can't be going out and about, we don't have events to go to, all those sorts of things. So it's kind of, I guess, pluses and minuses of, you know, hopefully for most people they won't be spending as much.
Yes.
So if you're afraid of budgeting, now might be a good time to start.
Yes. I have a side note here. If you're not ignoring your finances, this is a great time to reset and refocus because I know what that feels like.
Yes. And hey, like, let's be honest, team, not everyone wants to read the COVID news updates every single day.
Yeah.
And whilst money may not be then the most exciting topic,
maybe it's like number 3 on the list.
Yeah, great time to distract yourself. Get deep into those bank statements. Look at your online accounts, spending, you know, on that, like important things. Look at if you have any buy now, pay later schemes, check in on your afterpay, make sure that you're on top of automatic payments around those sorts of things. See if there are, regular subscriptions that maybe you don't need right now. This is one for me. I know like at the moment we have a gym membership, and during level 4, we're allowed to put it on pause at no cost. I actually have to do that because a lot of people just get those emails and then forget to implement it, and it keeps getting deducted. If there's something that you need to action, take the time right now
to do it.
Yeah, your boss will forgive you. Just do it an hour at work time.
Kat says as the boss. Yeah. So I'm forgiven. Oh, love that. Number 2, and it kind of speaks to exactly the point that you just made, is checking in with your current providers to see whether you're falling victim to loyalty tax or not. So if you don't know what loyalty tax is, essentially it's the tax or the extra cost that comes from staying with one provider. And by that we mean providers can bring out specials every now and again. So if you're not taking advantage of those specials, then you're essentially getting left behind and probably being charged more relative to new sign-ups. And people that are being onboarded.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, so like the simple things, I guess, to start with for most bill payers, like look at your power, your internet, your phone, see if there's things, exactly, insurances, things that you can kind of consolidate. I remember recently, actually, we did this. Oh my God. And I've also just remembered I haven't changed it. So I am going to put my hand up and say, I need to do this lockdown. We looked at our car insurance because we only have one car, and with insurance, I'm not so good because everything's looped into one. So it's like, our home, contents, car, all at one. And so I find it quite hard to kind of, when you have one lump payment, figure out actually what's cost effective and what's not. And so I started looking at the car insurance specifically, and we've only had our car for not even 2 years. So it's not like we've been with one provider for, 5 years. But looking at that and then looking at an alternate for the exact same amount of insurance, exact same excess and everything, $1,100 difference in premium.
That is crazy.
Outrageous.
That is such a difference and such a saving.
I know. So guys,
that's so worth it.
Listeners, I need to take my own advice here and actually change that. But there are some things there. And, that for me, I'm like, whilst I guess the total cost for us is still kind of fine in our budget, I'm like, well, that money could be better spent maybe increasing our house insurance, because house prices have gone up, building costs have gone up. Like maybe actually on the house side or the content side, we're a little bit underinsured, but we're way overinsured in the car, and just seeing if there's some things that you can tweak. Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, or you could buy some coffees out. Well, not right now. I'll buy a coffee machine. Do not take that advice. This isn't advice. No. Okay. So I guess, number 3. Number 3 is set some goals. So this is something that Kat and I have both talked about previously, and Kat found, I think when she was being an advisor or coming into New Zealand, is that Kiwis don't set goals as much as maybe we should relative to Oz. And so, it's really important to have a purpose for your money, and setting some goals is a great way to do that, because how do you know what you're doing with your money if you don't have a destination in mind? Absolutely. And I think just to reaffirm that with everyone, like the hardest thing about saying no or making a budget and, delaying instant gratification for anything when it comes to your spending is, if you don't have something in the future that you're, saying no for now, you're never going to say no. You're just going to keep spending. You're just going to keep prioritizing like here and now and what's going on. You have to have that thing that you're working towards. Otherwise, instant gratification monkey will win every single time. And then we won't be happy in retirement. No, we won't. Sorry, that was maybe a bit grim. But no, it's you have to make a sacrifice at some point, right? Yeah. So and you need to know what the sacrifice is for. Exactly. Then you'll be happy to make it. It's the having the why, right? Yep. Basically. And the why is your goal, essentially. Yep. So we thought it would be kind of interesting to wrap a little bit of context around the importance of having that goal and the kind of the reality of also working to get to that goal. Yes. And so we thought we could look at setting a goal of buying a house. Something that you've been thinking of, and obviously timely for many, or on the tops of minds for many millennials. Yeah, and definitely. And so I guess a little bit of context. The average age of a first home buyer in New Zealand in 2021 is 34 in cities and 31 in regional areas, which has actually stayed the same roundabout since 2017. So quite a good goal in our mid ages. Did this surprise you? Did you I guess because you're well away from 34. Yeah. And you already have you already, I didn't say you looked well away. Savage. Sorry. No,
That was a good one. I'll give you that.
we've clearly lost it after day one.
It's been a long day.
But, you, I guess, feel the FOMO pressure now. So hearing that stat, has that kind of, did it surprise you? Has it changed anything?
I think I actually feel like I read a stat that said 39 a while ago. And so I think it feels a lot sooner. But then also knowing that I'm 26, so even 31 is still a decent amount of time to save towards that goal if I wanted to do that. But I think it's hard for me to put into context a little bit because I guess I surround myself with people who are already invested in property. And so that's who I directly compare, I guess, to, or the perspective that I have, rather than looking at the average of New Zealand.
Broader population.
Yeah, but it is nice to know, I think, that we're doing all right,
Yeah.
And then there's no need to rush. So, yeah.
So I guess, just to kind of like round out, obviously, that little property chat, goal setting doesn't need to be really ambitious, and I think helpful to always keep in context some of the averages and what other people are doing, but also just remember that you are 100% in your own race, and your goals are always going to be different to others. So if you don't want to buy a house in your early 30s, you don't have to. If you want to buy a house in your 40s, also completely fine. And that kind of nicely, I guess, leads into our second thing that we think people should be doing this lockdown, and that is if you find yourself saving money, put it to work.
Woo! Do something useful with it.
Yes, exactly. And what do we mean here? We don't mean go out and buy a house. We mean
or coffees.
Start investing.
Yes.
Or continue investing. Invest more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think, as Christine mentioned at the start, we've been obviously running events for Kernel in the last couple of week and a half around all of New Zealand, specifically on investing and talking about, some of the challenges that people have in all stages around, maybe being locked out of the property market or finding that cash isn't working for them anymore, and just looking at other options. And really, I guess the resonating point in all of those discussions has been now more than ever, particularly for young people, you really do need to be investing to not get left behind. It's not going to be achievable to just leave your money in the bank. And one thing actually that was really highlighted this for us is we had this really good slide that kind of showed the term deposit rates that you'd get in a bank over the last 4 decades, and the average New Zealand salary that was also over those 4 decades, and then I guess how much money you needed to have invested or in a term deposit rather during that time to basically earn you the average salary of a New Zealander. So I'm just going to bring this number up because it might well, hey, I don't remember December of 1990, but the 6-month term deposit rate then was 11.5%, and average annual earnings for Kiwis was just over $26,000. So to get the average annual earnings from a bank deposit, you needed to have $227,000 invested. Fast forward to December of 2010, 6-month term deposit rates, 4.7%. Average annual earnings had gone up to about $49,000. And to get $49,000 a year just from leaving your money in a bank account, you needed to have just over $1 million invested. Now, fast forward just a small decade later to December of 2020, and the term deposit rate at the end of last year was sitting at about 0.8%. Average annual earnings in New Zealand have risen to about $65,000 a year. And if you wanted to earn $65,000 a year solely from term deposits, you needed to have a cool $7.8 million in the bank. Boom. Do you have
Need
that?
I say more?
I think this is. This is just
it's a harsh reality.
It is a harsh reality, and this is relevant, I guess, for people that are more conservative and a little bit older in life, and realizing that they can't leave their money in the bank. But then also really important for younger people, because sometimes just saving for a goal is not going to get you where you need to be.
100%, absolutely. And you don't have the magic of compounding, right? Yeah. Over time.
Just
as well.
Absolutely not to the same degree. So,
no.
It's really in this day and age and kind of the time that we're at is really important to look at investing. And if this is not something that you're doing already, I think taking the opportunity in lockdown to upskill yourself specifically on investing. Like, there's some amazing podcasts out there other than ours, because we don't talk about investing all the time. There's some great blogs. I would definitely say, we spend a heap of time on the Kernel Wealth blog creating a whole heap of content for various different people. And, whether you're investing in index funds or otherwise, there's really relevant information there. There's some great resources around, on the Happy Saver blog. Dare I say it, Reddit. Don't get too deep into that. But, there are...
Sense check as well.
There's good conversations going on out there, and I think, financial services providers are trying to do more than ever to really give people this information. So if you find yourself at a loss of what to do in the next couple of weeks, start reading.
Get reading, get watching, get listening.
Yep.
All of the things from all the angles.
Exactly. And then what do you do, Christine?
You action.
Yes, you take action. Exactly. Because it's not just good enough to think about it.
Exactly. Micro action equals macro outcomes, right?
Yes. Love it. And I think this ties in perfectly to number 3, which is, turning your random investing into an automated habit. So what does this mean?
Great question. So random investing, that might look like, putting $100 into your investing account, maybe when you don't go out for a night on the piss.
Yep.
Or, lump sum investing, or trying to time the market, potentially waiting till the values of companies drops, so share prices drop.
Or you get a hot tip from someone and you're like going to jump on that thing, or maybe I'm like, I kind of feel a bit cool on this company right now. I'm going to go to do a little bit over there, a bit of dabbling here, there and everywhere, right?
Yeah, or waiting for like the COVID dip
Whoever
2.0 to strike again. So instead of that, it's things like paying yourself first, so really prioritizing future you and investing, and then taking advantage of auto invest functions within various
investment platforms.
Yeah, investment platforms. So that is, setting up an AP from your bank account into your investment portfolio. And then also there's obviously an emotional element of switching your thinking from trying to time the market to time in the market. So it's also focusing on what you can control.
Which, if we reflect on where we are right now, I guess particularly for New Zealand, we've kind of been this like poster boy of success in the COVID world, and things still can change so rapidly. And I guess, this is really just reiterating to people, you do not know what's going to happen in the future. No one could have predicted this current situation that we're in with any degree of accuracy, even 3 days ago. And it's just about, making the most of every up and down in the market and realizing that there are always going to be things happening in the future that we can't see. You need to focus on the long term and make sure you've got those good habits so that you are regularly investing, and then focusing the rest of your energy on way funner stuff.
Yes. Automate it so you can do the things that you love.
Yes.
Not that you don't love investing, but
Yes, exactly right. Because as you say, we can't control the markets, but we can control what we're going to do. And now I think is a good time to set up an investing behavior or a savings to investing behavior that then, as things do start to normalize and improve and we go back to work and we're, kind of moving more freely, that behavior is already in place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could also be something as simple, so stepping back from the investing part a little bit of, creating a separate bank account for your emergency fund where you transfer money out of your like day-to-day banking to that fund that you can't see or can't touch. So then it's kind of acts like an investment account, but that you're building up your emergency fund or paying off debt or something like that. Every paycheck, because every paycheck is an opportunity to do better, right?
Yes.
Cool.
So yes, hoping everyone's got those great habits. Now, we did want to talk a little bit about property because I guess it's just been very topical and, similar in both Oz and New Zealand, in that everyone knows and has read the headlines that property prices have been going a little bit nuts in the past 12 months. And there have been changes made, whilst the Reserve Bank in New Zealand did leave the official cash rate as is today, it had been predicted that it was going to increase and as basically, trying to dampen the property market a little bit. There have also been restrictions around how much banks will lend to investors and other things in the attempt to achieve a similar outcome. So for those of us that aren't yet in the property market, but we really want to be, we kind of wanted to, I guess, run through a little bit of a maths exercise to give you guys some numbers. And please don't be scared or put off by this, but it's just really reiterating the importance of why saving is not going to cut it for us anymore. And we need to be thinking about utilising investing to help us get towards our goals. So, Christine, give me some numbers.
Sure. Okay, so from June 2020 to June 2021, property prices have increased 25% in Auckland, in New Zealand. So they have risen from an average of 920,000 to 1.15 million. So
average property price.
Yeah, in Auckland only. So that's not New Zealand.
Yep.
So if you were a first home buyer, you would need a minimum. No, not minimum.
Just say 20%. Because some people.
It's like, yeah. You would need a 20% deposit. So a 20% deposit on 920,000 is 184,000. And then a 20% deposit on a $1.15 million house is 230,000, which is a lot. So that is an increase of 46,000 from 184 to 230,000. So if we then look at the median wage,
can I just reiterate that really quickly though? That is in 1 year. The 20% deposit that you would have had to save has increased by $46,000 just due to the property price increase.
Yeah, that's crazy, eh?
In 1 year.
So then if we look at the median wage in New Zealand in June 2021, that was 56,836, and after tax that is 45,975. So that is an increase in median wage over the last year that has been only 3.1%. So that is 3.1% increase in our median wage versus 25% increase in average property prices in Auckland.
Yeah. And then if we go back to thinking about, okay, that deposit number, we're saying if you're basing, the average property price, therefore your deposit increase in the deposit has increased by $46,000. That is the whole after-tax median wage of New Zealand.
For 1 year, yeah.
Yeah, for 1 year. So if I would hazard a guess that it is pretty unlikely that there are that many people out there that have the ability to save an additional $46,000 every year. And the point there is, median wage increases or, salary increases are not keeping at all on par with the property price increases. And so as someone that's just trying to save a deposit from their salary, it is getting that much harder to keep up at the same rate that property prices are going up. Like the reality is that if you are on your the beginnings of your property journey and this kind of general rule of thumb may not apply to someone that's very close to having kind of their full 20% deposit. But if you're in your sort of earlier stages and you've got a couple of years ahead of you, we sort of know, well, okay, if property prices have increased around 25%, granted, they're not going to do that every single year. They are increasing at a much higher rate than, say, you're going to get on your savings in a bank account. And then we also know that your salary is not going to increase in the same level that property prices are. What else can you look at? You really have to look at using other growth assets that are going to grow at a faster rate than, term deposits, savings accounts, or just your salary.
And so what are those growth assets?
Basically, it's the share market.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I think, of huge caveat there, share market investing does have risk, but I would also argue to people that on the flip side, just leaving your money in a bank account has risk because after inflation and where we're currently looking, you're at risk of not reaching your goals if you're just relying on cash to help you get there. And also, people, you really need to be using growth assets like shares or managed funds and other investments to help you get towards getting into property. I think we're seeing this, we had a lot of conversations over the last week with people that I think they struggle with the fact that they see share market investing as risky, but they're slowly coming to accept that this is probably going to be a little bit of the new normal in terms of the way that many people get into the property market or into their first home or second home. And I know for us, like, we are investing and we are also saving, but realistically, to be able to, ever upsize, we're going to need to do more than just save.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and also, I guess, what are the alternatives? So if you're not putting your money into the share markets or that type of growth asset, is it investing in a second property once you're on the ladder? And then now with the new LVR restrictions that require you to have a 40% deposit for your investment property, that is not achievable for a lot of people. And yes, of course, we've seen the 25% increase in property prices in the past year. So that means that, the price of your house has increased and you can leverage off that. But at the same time, it still can be a very substantial amount that you're trying to use the equity in your home for, right? To have that 40% deposit.
Just to balance that out, whilst we have seen some exceptional returns from the share market in the last 12 months, and that's certainly not something that we would expect to continue going forwards, 25% growth in property in 12 months is a huge allure to be like, I just want to invest in property. But the reality is the share markets over the long term have delivered higher returns than property has when you look at much longer term averages over, 10, 20 years. So if I look at, Global 100 for international equity markets over the last 12 months, it's had about a 22% return. So, it's not dissimilar. Like a lot of growth assets have gone up in the last 12 months, property included. And whilst, yes, I would just, temper expectations, the reality is bank accounts out, shares in.
See ya term deposits.
What have we got coming up on the pod, Christine?
Great question. So our next episode will be all around Investing 102. So you've started investing, and now what? What are the next steps that you can take? And then we've got some also podcasts around cryptocurrency, investing and things like that. And we've also just interviewed an array of amazing Money Moments guests. So you can expect to see all these coming out within the next few weeks.
Definitely. And I would say, team, we have some really, really cool people coming up on Money Moments. And I guess, some of the Money Moments episodes to date have been quite in depth in terms of like people's financial situations. And we do have a slightly different view this time around where, there are people that run very successful businesses or come from entirely different industries, like, they're social media influencers and different parts of like business life that we don't know anything about. And they kind of talk through their challenges of, those types of careers and how they manage money and self-employed life and all sorts of other things. And I'm very excited to listen to those.
They were so fun to record as well. We also are bringing on a financial advisor, and that's really interesting.
Yes, exactly. So keep an eye out.
Get excited.
Or an ear out. We have some more lockdown entertainment coming your way.
And also, please do let us know if there's anything that you would like to see on the podcast, because we are happy to adapt and change. If you don't like podcasts, let us know. If you want more, holla at your girls.
Yep. And we'll see you on the gram at It's No Secret NZ. Stay sane, everyone.
And have a great lockdown. We will come back to you with recipes.
The cocktails. Stand by.
Bye.
Bye.